Welcome to the Yellow Coat Club podcast. My name is Sean Little, and I'm excited to have you here with me today. For those of you that have followed along with my journey, for those of you that have particularly seen the videos, whether they're on YouTube or on social media, you would quickly see that the background that I have right now is far different than the bookcase that I've had for so many months. And for those of you that have been following along, I am now sitting in my hometown of Holland, Michigan. My wife and I and our son, we ended up packing up and leaving Phoenix, and we're on this journey to follow more to where God's calling us. And one of those stops along the way is here, and so we're going to be here for the summer. And it's almost surreal. I remember leaving here 6 years ago when I went to Mexico, and there was so much grief and I think sadness, and I was just grieving leaving this place that I had come to find and call home. And so to return and know that it's not just for a quick vacation, but for an extended period of time, I just keep driving around and seeing places and go, oh, I remember that there, I remember that there, and I've been able to go to some of my favorite spots and go, run through the trees and just really take in, this full circle moment of God leading me to where I felt like, He was calling me at the time, and then, coming back here for a bit and being able to spend time with family and friends and really take this in as we're continuing on, that journey of becoming. And so, man, I'm pretty geeked to be here. And so, I'll be here for, the next couple months. We'll have new background, all that. You might hear a chair creaking. I've been trying to get us set up. You get so comfortable in your own routine that, trying to piece together new things, like it is what it is. And so I'm excited, and it is awesome to be here. And I'm glad to have you here with me today. As I planned and prepared for this podcast, I like to spend time just trying to find, whether it's quotes or, what's God putting on my heart, and really still tying it to that whole, premise of everything that was built around, is that, it's this becoming, but it's also this community of people that are becoming. So much is just me talking about the things that I'm experiencing or going through as a part of my becoming, but I also, want to share in that with you. So if you can reach out on Facebook, you can send me an email, find some way to connect. You can go to the website. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how you have chosen to become the things that you are wrestling through, the things that you're working through. It's just so important for us to be able to do life with other people, for us to be in that community, to be in that togetherness. We weren't meant to do life alone. And even just the other day, I was talking with a young man that I've been able to walk with. We've been in community together, and I mean, there's so many things about him that inspire me. I look at him, and he's younger, and I just think, man, if I was your age and I had the head on my shoulders that you did, I could have probably foregone some of the beatings that I self-imposed. And at the same time, I think, those beatings are the same things that have made me who I am today. So don't know if I would shortchange what I would call the miracle, but it's so awesome to see somebody who's already digging in, who's grappling with the real questions, but instead of turning to, just trying to numb everything away, that he's really fighting through them. And so it's been an honor to be able to walk alongside him through those things. We were talking about the struggle, we were talking about pain, we were talking about, meeting those moments where, you haven't triumphed something, you keep falling. We were sharing about addiction and, falling into it. And it doesn't matter, pick your poison. For me, it was, drinking and, drugs at some point, an eating disorder, that started from, an early age. But there's been, times in my life that I dealt with, issues around, pornography or, and so you find all of these things that are so easy to get us wrapped up and take us away from living a life that feels whole, that feels complete. And so addiction at large, you could be shopaholic, like pick your poison of the thing that you use to distract yourself from your real problems. Those are typically the things that we would use to numb. They make us passive beings. And so him and I were talking just about the struggle. And it was interesting because as we unpacked, talking about, what we had gone through, I remember sharing with him when I was young, and I've talked about this story before, but when I was struggling with an eating disorder, I distinctly remember being in bathrooms bent over, this porcelain god of mine. And I would say over and over and over, like, you parted the Red Seas, you made fire rain down from the sky. Your son literally rose from the dead after 3 days. You are the miracle maker. And yet, at a snap of a finger, all of this could be done for me. I truly believed that. I believed that at a snap of a finger, at a moment's notice, God could speak life into or freedom into that moment. I would have never struggled with an eating disorder again. This thing that had overtaken my life and had really compounded on top of so many other things. There was the grief that I was, still grappling through with, my parents, my dad dying and then my mom dying. And so you have this, this orphan boy that can't stop throwing up. And now I'm praying to God, wanting to have this relationship, really just wanting him to save me. In my mind, it was, you didn't save my parents, so at least you could use your power and wield it for good and save me. And when that didn't happen, I created this story, I created this narrative that it didn't matter if God could do that or not. He sure didn't care about me. And so I continued to struggle. I ended up going off to college, still had an eating disorder. I ended up, getting into marijuana and drinking and everything. And then, lo and behold, I become an alcoholic. I trade one addiction for another. Always trying to get that next fix. Always trying to get something to fill me. And even leading up to that time when, I had even said, I thought it was the hardest thing I'd do, which was admitting I had a problem. So, hey, I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to start doing something about this. And even in that moment, I guess I somehow believed like, okay, I did the work. Let's go. I'm never doing this again. And yet I would fall again and again and again. And in between all of the blows, in between the beating my head against the wall, it changed me. It shaped me. And over time, I can look back now and think, man, what would life have been like had it just been that easy? What would I have learned? Who would I have become if God would have just come in and just poof, it was gone. No struggle, no fight, no anything. It was gone. How would I have chosen to live my life? And I think that it would have been a lot different than it is today. And so as I'm talking to this young man and we're going back and forth, kind of just sharing where we're both at, or, more where I was at the time, I said, I truly believe in the miraculous God. But I also do believe that so many of us are praying prayers for God to come save us, when in all reality, he's waiting for us to do the hard work, to be an active participant in the saving. We we live in a world right now where so many things, it's not a matter of like so many things are easy, but it's a matter of us trying to make things easy. We continue to, develop all these crazy technologies. We continue to, find little, niches that make our life easy and never reverting back to hard. And don't get me wrong, work smarter, not harder. I firmly believe in that. But and also we now live in the day and age where, we have somebody else do our grocery shopping for us. Some of us don't even know the last time we went to a grocery store or, pumped our gas. Like that's, maybe that's for a certain select group of people. We're still going to the grocery store and we're, pumping our gas. But think about it. You have these things called Instacart, or, now it's not even just a pizza delivery service. It's that there's a delivery service that will go to any restaurant you want. You don't have to even get off the couch. You can just order the thing from wherever you want and it will be brought to you. Whereas back in the day, it was minus pizza. You were going out and getting those things for yourself. Now, once again, I'm not shaming on anybody. When my wife and I had Jack, we got gift cards to DoorDash and we were using DoorDash like, it was running out of style, and it was super helpful. It was convenient for our life. Look at all of these meal services that they have where it's like, hey, we'll send you 8 to 12 to whatever frozen, foods. You can put them in. It costs a little bit more, but at some point it's like, hey, then you don't have to take the time to meal prep or do anything of this. Like, we have looked for convenience as much as possible. And I think I wonder where that tipping point comes, where we choose convenience so often, that we choose that easier route so often, that we start to become domesticated, that we start to think that when I'm in a struggle, I shouldn't be. If I'm in a struggle and this doesn't get taken away from me, well, where's the magic cure? Versus rolling up our sleeves and saying, it's going to be a lot of work. This is going to be a lot of work, and I don't know when the work's going to be done. There's going to be pain involved. There's going to be suffering involved. Like, even as I say those words, how many people want to sign up for that? Pain, suffering, hard work. And not just with our hands, with our minds, with our spirit. Life is not for the faint at heart. So some of us, you can sit there and say, okay, yeah, but why does it have to be so hard? And I think I've, in my life, come to find that when we go through and do hard things, it prepares us not only for the next hard thing, but it just prepares us to do life. So many of us have that little experience, that lack of experience, to where we get, a problem arises. I've been this person. I still am this person. Where I'll freak out and go, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. But when you look in the past and you've gone through it, or you can lean on somebody who's gone through it, you can sit there and go, I'm going to make it through. Like, what's that whole adage? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Like, there's truth to that. It's not even a matter of it's going to kill us. I think we develop stories that we say this thing is going to kill me, but at the end of the day, it's really just getting us prepared for the next hard thing. We have to go through hard things. And as we go through them, as we were made for community, in our own becoming, we walk alongside other people and we share in that pain. I don't know how many of you are fans of the show Yellowstone, but my wife and I binged that and just, love it so much. I think the writer Taylor Sheridan has just an amazing ability to capture so much emotion and has just a way with words. And so if you've seen the show, if not, then this might not make as much sense to you, but the main character is speaking with his daughter-in-law. She had gone through loss. She had lost her baby, who was barely born and died. And this main character, as she's sitting next to the grave, he walks up and he sits down next to her and he says, I think sometimes God gives us tragedies so we can pass along how we survived it to the next set of sufferers. And maybe someday all that knowledge leads to no tragedies at all. I don't know about that last part, but I do know that we have an ability to pass along how we survive to other people. We have a way to walk alongside other people and show them that this too shall pass. This doesn't have to be the thing that overtakes you. But we also have to be willing to put in the hard work it takes to achieve. No one just, I mean, that whole adage, think about, you've seen people where it's just like, it looks so easy. And for some people there is. Some people have literally been handed a silver spoon and have not had to work through that, or have always had a safety net or whatnot. But like, stop looking at other people's lives and look at your own. And there's times when we find ourselves in tragedy or pain or in hardship, and it's because of the choices that we are simply making. There's also sometimes that we end up in pain and tragedy, and it was no choice for us at all. But how we navigate both says so much about who we are, who we've become already, and who we are becoming. The pain that we try to escape so often is the same pain that is going to make us into the person that God created us to be. You know, I look around the world, and here's the deal. I don't live in other countries, so I don't really know what's happening over there. Maybe I should be a little bit more well-versed in it, but I do know what's happening in our country. As I talked earlier, this American dream has now become almost this obsession with American ease. How do I make life as convenient as possible? How do I make life as easy as possible so that I have to do as little things as possible in order to still succeed? You know, I'm not as crafty as so many other people, but it's like, hey, you know, people keep talking about, I hacked the system on how you can work for like no hours a week and make $1 bajillion. And we're all chasing that. So many people just chasing after this thing. And it's like, man, there's the lucky few. But to act like that's the journey and the path for everyone, one of the questions I have to ask is, what's so wrong with working? What's so wrong with putting in the hard work to learn these skills and develop them? We try to sell ease to so many people, and to me it seems like a farce. Like this lie. And in fact, think about how many people are making money off these videos that come here and tell you how easy life is, and if you just follow me and if you pay me your $100, I will make it easy for you. At the end of the day, you're not the one that has my bank account. At the end of the day, you're not the one that has my problems. At the end of the day, you don't have to be me, and I don't have to be you. But what we can do is encourage one another to follow and become the person that God created us to be. We can encourage one another to step into not only our pain, but the pain of others, to walk alongside one another, sharing that together. We try to avoid the quick route. We want to skip past the lesson. We want to skip past the hard work that it took to become those people. I once heard that temptation is literally the difference between how it becomes temptation is you're tempted to take the easy route out. Michael Scott says it in The Office. He says, every day I get a little bit more desperate. And what they say is desperation yields the quickest results. Yeah, it does. Because when we get desperate, we want to cut corners. And when we cut corners, you get results. But what results are those? And are they the ones that are building you the life that you were called to live? Not somebody else's life. Not the life of Easy Street, but just the life that was put on, like, it's yours. It's yours. And so, we have this, and I'm going to use this example, and I know that there's going to be people that hear this, and it's like, dude, like, step back. It could be very controversial, but, I hope you hear the heart of this. So, I've talked to people, and I'm going to be a little bit skeptical when a lot of things come out, but GLP-1, we all know this, the weight loss drug that people are taking, and it's gotten a lot of hype. You literally turn on the TV, there's commercials, GLP-1, 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 weight loss, weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. And the fine line that I would walk there is that, even my wife, when we were talking about this, and she's like, hey, I'm going to play devil's advocate. She's like, doesn't something like GLP-1 that helps people to start losing weight, isn't that something that's like really beneficial? Because once you start, seeing yourself lose weight, it gets in your mind, oh, I can do this. And therefore you continue the journey. And I said, yeah, that's a really good perspective. It's a very good perspective. And yet I also know that there is a lot of people that started taking a drug like this. And as they take it, they might not realize that this is a drug that you become dependent on the rest of your life. In order to have the effect that it has on you, you have to continue taking it. It's not like, oh, I took it for 3 months and I'm good. In order to get the effect that it gives you, you have to keep taking it, which is fine. I take, medication for, bipolar. And so it's something that I take every single day. And so, hey, I'm not going to poo-poo on that. But if you're taking this and you've seen people where it's almost like the GLP-1 face, where it just looks like they're the walking dead. It's because what happened is that how it operates, it's curbing your appetite. So you're not eating. And so therefore maybe you're exercising, who's to say, but you're just dropping weight like crazy. But it's because you're somewhat starving yourself, and because of the rate in which you're losing weight so quickly, is you do in fact look in your face and everything else that you look like you're the walking dead. Go look up pictures online. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because this is supposed to be a helpmate. It should be something to help jumpstart. It should be something that is a tool in your toolkit, but also it doesn't replace diet, exercise, sleep, all of the things that you need to be successful in your weight loss journey, in your health and fitness and nutrition journey. And so it's the easy route. We want to take this thing, but I recently just saw another study, because studies are just rolling in, because it's still a very new thing in the sense that the longevity of research. And I saw something that said for people that stop taking it, they gain the weight back within a year. And I guarantee you it's probably for those people that had no plan whatsoever on how they were going to use this strategically to stop. I had a conversation with a friend, and she had asked me, she said, hey, somebody that I know who's been drinking, there's this pill that you can take. And if you take it, it's like you have to take it an hour before you were to start drinking. And if you do drink, then it starts making you throw up. And I said, here's my take on that. If I'm not disciplined enough to not go drink, what makes you think that I'm going to be disciplined enough to take a pill before I would go drink? It almost seems backwards. Like, if I can be disciplined enough to take a pill, like literally if you're trying to stop drinking and you're on your way to going drinking, the first thing I'm going to think of is not, oh, well, maybe I should take that pill. No, the only thing I'm thinking about is I want the thing that I'm driving towards to go get. And so you could stop yourself. But if I'm going to stop myself, why would I need to take the pill? Why wouldn't I go through some other kind of exercise or mental work, or getting myself to a meeting or in community where I'm not reliant on something that's going to do the work for me? It's madness. And so, I sit there and I wonder, how much are we trying to push forward and push ahead? We have self-driving cars, so humans can't be behind the wheel. Why? So you can be on your phone and be texting the entire time? Don't get me started on the phones while you're driving. But it's the reality. Why are we trying to cut so many corners? AI, I use it all the time for work. I think it's an amazing, amazing tool that can be another tool in your tool belt. But we keep trying to push and advance forward and forward and forward to take all of the human out of it. And I have to sit there and wonder, are we at some point, maybe not for those of us that are learning it right now, but imagine 20 years from now, have we killed creativity? Is it just gone? Because imagine if this thing does all of the thinking for me, why would I ever need to think? Or things like leadership skills. How are you going to learn those from a computer? You can read about them. You can see the words there. You can literally, hey, this is what it's telling me to do. But at some point, like, how do you create that level of intensity, that level of certainty? Language and communication have such a powerful effect, and it's not always about what's being said, but it's how it's being said. What's that adage that people say? It's not, you don't always remember what somebody said, but you know how they made you feel. And so when we think of doing the hard work, I mean, come on. I'm a really big fan of, I think Eminem is the best rapper alive. So if you got a problem with that, you can put it in the comments, but best rapper alive, but honestly, best rapper that ever was. And one of my favorite songs by him, and will pump me up every time I listen to it, is Till I Collapse. And if you ever listen to that song or not, you should go listen to it. Now, I'm letting you know, there's swear words in it. I think there's a clean version, but it doesn't hit as hard. Go listen to that song and feel the intensity of the message, Till I Collapse. And I mean, I think about life in that sense of, why would I avoid hard things? Doing hard things is what makes us and continues for us to become. I mean, shoot. If we want to model our lives after, Jesus did some of the hardest things ever, was to sacrifice himself. A perfect man sacrificed himself literally so that you and I could have a chance, that you and I could have redemption in a place of hope and healing and restoration. He didn't do anything wrong, but he was willing to suffer on our behalf, enduring the cross, doing hard things. As I was looking through quotes for this, I came along this one from Theodore Roosevelt, and it's from The Man in the Arena. It says, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood." I absolutely love that. And for those of you that love a nice David Goggins quote, it says, "The only way you're ever going to get to the other side of this journey is you've got to suffer to grow." That's how we become. That's how we learn. That's the teaching. I don't know where you're at right now. You could be in the middle of a storm. And the thing is that I once heard that, I think it's cows, but they have this ability to, when a storm comes, instead of running from the storm, they run into the storm, because they know that the quicker they run into the storm, the quicker they will get out of it. And so instead of us running or trying to take the long way, what would it look like to just press forward? And in that pressing forward, through that pain, through that hardship, realizing that this is the ingredients that leads you to become. And all along the way, like, you don't know what's on the other side. And every single detour that is on that journey, on that path, is another way for you to grow and learn and get glimpses of a future that you might not know is possible. But I will tell you this: if you continue to consistently look for a way out, you are going to wake up one day wondering, why do I feel empty? Why do I feel like I left something on the table? Why do I feel like I got left behind? You never risked anything. You didn't chance anything. And you will have foregone the growth and the hard, work it takes to become something that even you're proud of. And so, I as I spoke to this young man the other day, I literally was thinking, and I said it to him. I said, I believe more in the miraculous healing. Like, I've had an issue with my ankle, and I've been praying over it. And even that, I'm like, oh, God, I believe that he would be quicker to miraculously heal my ankle than to have cured me from alcoholism. One of them's like, hey, I really appreciate it. Now I can get back to running. There's also the rehabilitation portion of that. But when it comes to working through something so hard, if it was just at a snap of a finger, how do I share that with anybody? Man, it was real easy. I prayed, I snapped my finger, God took it away, boom. No, if you've ever gone and sat around any, an AA tables or Al-Anon or anything like that, there is pain and there is suffering. But there is also experience, strength, and hope. And every time we make it through, we get to pass on how we made it through to the next set of sufferers. We get to walk alongside people in that journey. And in that, the suffering has meaning. There was another quote I came by from Viktor Frankl, and it's from A Man's Search for Meaning. It says, in some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning, such as the meaning of a sacrifice. Suffering has meaning in our lives. Jesus suffered. And if he had to suffer, we all have to suffer. We think of, the chemistry or the work that it takes to literally, bring about a diamond. We know that the forging of metals is literally that. It's the forging of metals. I mean, the symbols are endless. It has to be pressure tested. It has to go through this to come out on the other side as this beautiful, piece of art, or this, this jewelry that we see. And if we want our lives to be something like that, if we want to become something, that we would look and be amazed at it. You can't just take the easy way out. I don't think that that's how that's going to get done. And so as I close this, I think about how hardship is preparing us to not be, ordinary. Hardship is preparing us to do just that. Be people that can do hard things. If you are met with opposition about something that's hard, stop taking the easy route and just say, hey, I'm going to go do this simply because it's hard. There's a church sermon series that I was a part of, 6 years ago, and it literally said, just do it afraid. I loved that. It has stuck with me ever since. It was, hey, that thing, there's the opposition or that looks hard, whatever. Do it afraid. Do it anyways. And look at who you will become on the other side, and you have no idea. Because who you are today and who you will be on the other side of that hard thing, you won't know until you live it. I kept telling my wife, and it's different. some hardship is, at the end of it, you don't know when the end is. And that's the worst kind. If you tell me, hey, you're going to suffer for like 3 days, okay, I got it. You're going to suffer for a week, okay, I got it. A month, kind of annoying, but I got it. But when there's no end date, it's just endless. No end in sight. That's when you really get pressure tested. Because you have no idea. And so you become dependent on the one to give you strength to see it through. You become dependent, or at least reliant on other people to walk alongside you to share that pain, so you don't have to do it alone. So when my wife and I, we were getting ready to move, and there was just a lot. My wife carried such a huge load, and even for us, it was, hey, there is going to be a time when we're sitting, and I'm doing it right now, we're going to be at the other side of that move. And it was stressful, and we learned a lot, and there was a lot of grace to be had between the both of us. And I look at where we're at now, and I can hear birds chirping, I can see grass outside. Like, oh, at some point you do make it. We don't know what that looks like. We have to be daring and willing to find out. And so, as I've written before, it's literally on the back of the Yellow Coat Club. It says, one day, or day one, you decide. You can continue to keep punting off the things that you need to go do, the hard things that you've been trying to avoid. Sometimes you just go do those hard things. Do hard things. So I don't know where you're at in your life right now. If there's something that you've been putting off, stop delaying it. Or there's that, whether it's that message that you haven't opened yet, it's the email you haven't sent, it's the question you haven't asked, the conversation you haven't prompted simply because you don't want to know. Or you're sitting there going, I don't know how I'm going to do this, and therefore I'm not going to do anything at all. Stop giving yourself excuses. Do hard things. And know that there's people in your life. And if there's not, you go find those people. Go find your tribe that you can walk alongside life with and do hard things together. And lean on one another. That's why there's not just one of us. And my prayer for you guys and anybody that's listening and is just the same prayer I'd have for myself or the people that I love and care about is, we want this beautiful life. We want, to have a, just a good life. Nah. My biggest prayer for people is literally that you would experience whatever you need to in order to become the person God created you to be. That you wouldn't shortchange the miracle. Don't shortchange the miracle. Walk through the storm. No expectation of when it's going to stop. Hands open, willing to receive anything and everything along the journey. And if you ever need anybody to bounce that off of, like, just know that you have a friend in me. That's that Toy Story song, I think. You got a friend? Yeah, Paul Newman, right? Somebody will correct me. Anyways, I just want to thank you so much for joining me again and following along. And do hard things. Don't be afraid to just take that next step forward. Stop trying to find the easy way out. It's not the thing that's going to make you. Hard things will make you. So until next time, this is Sean Little with the Yellow Coat Club, and I'm signing off. Thank you.